Thank you all for listening and watching my videos. Please subscribe and like my channel Master Coolits. Hoping that you will not skip my ads. It's a big help for me by not skipping it. Thank you so much. Dragon Shadow. The Rise.
Demon God Sect. That's bullshit. Kill me if you have what it takes. General Samuel Blake, General Liam Brooke, Victor Chen is still useful to us, and he can't die. You guys can deal with these two old things instead.
Zane's voice cut through the tension like a knife. His calm, authoritative tone left no room for argument. The generals, Samuel Blake and Liam Brooke, exchanged a knowing smile. They had been waiting for this moment, and Zane's command made their task much easier. Liam's hatred for the Demon God Sect ran deep, a seething anger that had been festering for years. He wasn't going to let them off lightly. Samuel, on the other hand, had a long-standing grudge against Michael Collins. The opportunity for revenge had him itching with anticipation. Michael Collins' eyes widened with fear as Samuel approached. Each step Samuel took was slow and deliberate, his eyes locked onto Michael with a predatory intensity.
You don't come near me, otherwise I will not give you your medicinal pills and weapons.
His voice wavered, the bravado from earlier quickly fading. Samuel remained unfazed, his expression unchanged. The promise of medicinal pills and weapons meant nothing to him. The Windfire Alliance's future was far brighter without Michael Collins and his manipulative tactics.
Don't kill me. I can give you anything you want if you don't kill me. Medicinal pills, weapons, formations, the entire Teng Chamber of Commerce. I can give you everything.
Michael's desperation was palpable. His voice grew more frantic with each word, his promises more extravagant. His eyes, once filled with defiance, now brimmed with fear and pleading. But Samuel's resolve was unshakable.
Ha ha ha! I can have everything I want after killing you.
With a swift, brutal motion, Samuel's axe came down. The blade sliced through the air, meeting Michael Collins' head with a sickening thud, splitting him in half. Blood sprayed in a crimson arc, splattering across the floor and staining the ornate rugs. The lifeless body crumpled to the ground, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the chamber. The shockwave of the act rippled through the gathered crowd, their gasps and cries of horror filling the air. Liam, not to be outdone, dispatched the Pharaoh with equal brutality. His sword moved with deadly precision, the blade gleaming under the flickering torchlight as it severed the Pharaoh's neck in one swift motion. The Pharaoh's head rolled across the floor, eyes still wide with the shock of his final moments. Blood pooled around the bodies, the metallic scent thick in the air. The atmosphere in the chamber shifted rapidly, the representatives of the various factions looking on in stunned silence, their faces pale and eyes wide with a mix of fear and awe.
They killed Michael Collins, oh my God. What will happen in the Chamber of Commerce scene in Meadow Continent then? Good riddance. I was so tired of the Teng Chamber of Commerce's rules. How could they ask us to pay them 5 out of every 10 crystals sold for our commission? That's outrageous. I agree. We finally get to live more comfortably now that he's killed.
Despite the shock, there was an undercurrent of relief among the representatives. The oppressive grip of the Teng Chamber of Commerce had been a heavy burden, and its sudden removal was like a breath of fresh air. Many could hardly believe their good fortune, their minds already racing with the possibilities that this new freedom would bring. Zane Martel surveyed the scene, a satisfied smile on his face. Things had progressed even more smoothly than he had anticipated. His plan was unfolding perfectly, and the power shift was palpable.
Everyone, there's been an unexpected incident. Why don't we continue our discussion inside?
His voice was calm and reassuring, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. Understanding the shift in power, the representatives followed Zane inside. The Windfire Alliance was now the rising power, and they were keen to discuss the future. Their steps were quick, eager to align themselves with the new order and secure their places within it. Later, Zane handed the unconscious Victor Chen to Owen Brooks, instructing him to monitor Victor closely in the Divine Hawk camp. Turning to Samuel Blake and Liam Brooke, he spoke with authority, his voice carrying the weight of his newfound leadership.
Generals, now that Michael Collins is dead and the Demon God Sect is wiped out, the Teng Chamber of Commerce is left without a leader. It's time for us to absorb them.
You're right, Zane. You truly surprised us with your grand plan.
Ha ha ha. Zane, you're exceptionally intelligent and even more capable than us old fellows. Let's go and check the Teng Chamber of Commerce's inventory.
Samuel quickly dispatched an army from the Divine Hawk camp to control and monitor the Teng Chamber of Commerce. Resistance from Michael Collins's immediate family was met with imprisonment or death. The soldiers moved with military precision, their expressions hard and unyielding. Other members and alchemists were also brought under control, their fates sealed by the swift actions of the Windfire Alliance. Within a day, the largest chamber of commerce in the Meadow Continent was taken down, and in its place, the Windfire Alliance rose. The process of annexation went smoother than expected, with many willing to surrender to avoid Michael Collins' oppression. The chambers of commerce in Meadow Continent were rejuvenated, and opportunities with the Windfire Alliance flourished. Business deals and alliances were formed, the potential for growth and prosperity evident in every interaction. 3 days later, Zane Martell stood in the dark underground interrogation room of the Divine Hawk camp. The air was cold and damp, the faint light from a single torch casting eerie shadows on the walls. Victor Chen, scarred and bound in chains that suppressed his vital energy, glared defiantly at Zane. His defiance was a thin veneer over the pain and exhaustion that racked his body.
Ha? Zane, you can dream about getting Ezekiel Martell's news from me.
For 3 days, Zane had questioned Victor relentlessly, using every method he knew, but to no avail. His frustration was growing, the lack of information gnawing at him.
Victor, aren't you afraid of being killed by me?
Despite the threats, Victor remained silent, his knowledge of Ezekiel Martell's whereabouts his only shield. Suddenly, the door to the underground room creaked open. The sound echoed in the confined space, drawing Zane's attention. Bo Thompson, Liam Brooks, Samuel Blake, and Gavin Owens entered. Zane's surprise quickly turned to curiosity.
Bo Generals, what brought you here?
Zane, is Victor still refusing to tell you anything? We should break his limbs and torture him with needles soaked in chili water.
Liam's brutal suggestion was met with a shake of Zane's head. He knew that such methods would not break Victor's resolve. Bo stepped forward, a glint in her eye.
Young Master Zane, why don't you let me have a try?
Zane's eyes lit up with understanding and hope.
That's right, why didn't I think of asking you? You're a three-tailed spirit fox, and your seduction skill and sorcery must be superb. Perhaps you can help me get an answer out of him.
Victor's face contorted with fear at the mention of Bo's true nature. His earlier defiance wavered, a flicker of doubt crossing his eyes.
A three-tailed spirit fox? Is she the same three-tailed spirit fox from the former royal family? That's impossible. We killed the former royal family. How could there be anyone who survived that? No way.
Victor's pupils shrank in fear, his disbelief evident. The weight of the revelation bore down on him, his mind reeling at the implications. Could it be true? His heart raced as he struggled to process the information, his confidence crumbling.
You will know the answer once I give it a try, don't you think so?
In the dimly lit room, Bo Thompson crouched down, her delicate fingers reaching out to cradle Victor Chen's face. Her eyes, an enchanting shade of pink, glimmered with a seductive allure. Suddenly, she released a warm breath on his face, sending a chill down his spine. Victor Chen, unable to resist, inhaled deeply. Dizzy and disoriented, he fell into a trance. The atmosphere in the room grew heavy with tension, as if the very air was thickening with suspense.
Let me ask you a question. Who are you?
Her voice cut through the silence like a knife, cold and demanding. Victor Chen's eyes, now vacant, stared back at her as if he was a mere puppet, strings pulled tight.
I am Victor Chen, disciple of the Demon God sect.
His words were mechanical, devoid of any emotion, as if they were ripped from him against his will. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next.
Why are you in Meadow Continent now?
Bo's tone was sharp, insistent. The question hung in the air, pressing down on Victor, compelling him to speak.
I came for the prize of the Alchemy Conference, the Warrior's Ascendance Elixirs, and I have a mission from my sect to collaborate with the Teng Chamber of Commerce to take down the Divine Hawk camp.
Victor Chen's response was immediate, his expression remaining blank. His words carried a weight of inevitability, as if he was a clockwork toy, reciting a pre-programmed message. Zane Martell stepped forward eagerly, the intensity of the situation electrifying the air around him. His eyes shone with a mix of determination and desperation.
I knew it.
His voice was a triumphant whisper, barely containing the excitement bubbling beneath. Zane's mind raced, piecing together the puzzle that had haunted him for so long. Without wasting a moment, Zane closed the distance between him and Victor. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing his growing hope and urgency.
Victor Chen, do you know Ezekiel Martell? Where is Ezekiel Martell? Tell me.
The words were almost a plea, dripping with desperation. Zane's face was inches from Victor's, his eyes boring into him, willing the truth to spill forth.
Ezekiel Martell is a prisoner in special detention by our demon god sect. He's kept in the Glimmer Continent, an unlawful state in the central area.
The revelation hit Zane like a thunderclap. The Glimmer Continent. His mind reeled at the implications. He had always believed Ezekiel would be in the northern states, under strict surveillance. This unexpected twist was both a shock and a glimmer of hope.
I want details. How is he? What did the demon god sect do to him? Any unusual movements?
His voice trembled slightly, betraying the emotional storm within. Each word was a lifeline, a desperate grab for information that could save his father.
Ezekiel Martell is locked up in the Ebonwave Pavilion in the Glimmer Continent. He'll be transferred in a few days.
The room seemed to close in on Zane. A few days? The urgency was now palpable, a ticking clock that threatened to run out.
Transferred? When exactly?
Zane's mind raced with possibilities, each one more desperate than the last. He needed specifics, something concrete to plan around.
I don't know. Soon, though, he'll be moved to the demon god sect.
Zane's heart sank further. The vagueness of Victor's answer was maddening. Without a precise timeline, the challenge of rescuing Ezekiel grew exponentially. Each second felt like an eternity, and the uncertainty gnawed at his resolve. Zane clenched his fists, his mind racing through the possible outcomes. If Ezekiel were moved to the demon god sect, their chances of rescuing him would plummet. The sect's stronghold was a fortress, virtually impenetrable, and time was of the essence.
I must go to the Ebonwave Pavilion in the Glimmer Continent. I have to save Ezekiel Martell at all costs.
His resolve was like steel, forged in the fires of love and duty. Every fiber of his being was now focused on this singular mission. The thought of his father, Ezekiel Martell, suffering at the hands of the demon god sect fueled his determination. He would not let his father's sacrifices be in vain. The image of his father's face, weary but defiant, flashed in his mind, strengthening his resolve. Bo Thompson, noticing his resolve, spoke up with concern, her voice a stark contrast to the cold interrogation from before.
Young Master Zane, it's extremely dangerous for you to travel to the Glimmer Continent alone. Let me dispatch some men to protect you.
Her offer was genuine. Driven by the dangerous reality of the journey ahead, the room fell silent, each person weighing the risks and merits of the plan. The Glimmer Continent was notorious for its lawlessness and treachery. A solitary journey there was fraught with peril. Bo's eyes, usually so calculating, now held a softness, a silent plea for Zane to reconsider.
No, if the pseudo-royal family is attacking, they'll be short on resources. A large group would only attract attention. I appreciate your offer, but I must go alone.
Zane's refusal was firm, his logic unassailable. The fewer people involved, the lower the risk of detection. He could not afford to draw unnecessary attention. The demon god sect had spies everywhere, and a large entourage would be a beacon to his enemies. His decision, though painful, was necessary. He turned to the generals, his voice filled with determination and a hint of regret.
Generals, I won't be able to fight alongside you this time. I hope you claim victory in this war.
The generals, Gavin Owens, Liam Brooke, and Samuel Blake nodded, their expressions a mix of guilt and determination. They would train their soldiers and prepare for the battle ahead, but they felt uneasy about not being able to assist Zane Martell more directly. They understood the gravity of his mission and the burden he bore, but the sense of helplessness weighed heavily on them.
Zane, when will you leave?
This afternoon. Time is pressing.
His voice was filled with urgency, each moment slipping through his fingers like sand. The sooner he left, the better his chances of intercepting the transfer of his father. The thought of Ezekiel being moved to an even more secure location was a nightmare he couldn't afford to let come true. Gavin Owens looked at him with concern, the lines on his face deepening.
Be very careful. I'll gather information about the Glimmer continent and send it to your room before you leave. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask.
Before noon, Zane Martell visited Gabriel Stone, his closest ally and trusted friend. The bond they shared was forged in the fires of countless battles, their trust in each other unshakable. Zane knew that Gabriel would stand by him no matter the odds.
Gabriel, I need you to join me on my journey to the Glimmer continent.
Gabriel Stone nodded without hesitation, honoring his promise to assist Zane Martell for the next 10 years. With Gabriel Stone by his side, Zane Martell felt more confident about the perilous journey ahead. Gabriel's presence was a source of strength, a reminder that he was not alone in this fight. The journey would be treacherous, but together they stood a fighting chance. Unexpectedly, Elora also wanted to join. Her resolve was unshakable, and she stepped forward with a determined look.
Elora, it's too dangerous.
I'm coming with you. I want to help.
Zane Martell couldn't argue. Elora was indeed competent, and her determination was unwavering. She had proven her worth many times before, and Zane knew he could trust her in the thick of danger. That afternoon, the three of them, Zane Martell, Gabriel Stone, and Elora, mounted their green deer horses, demonic beasts capable of traveling thousands of miles without rest. The horses, with their metal scales glinting in the sunlight, were a sight to behold. They quietly left the Meadow Continent, heading towards the Glimmer Continent. The journey was fraught with danger, but their resolve was unwavering. 5 days later, they reached the border of the Glimmer Continent, a land once vibrant but now marred by war. As they entered, they were greeted by ruins and chaos. The landscape was dotted with the remnants of once great buildings, now reduced to rubble. Amidst the destruction, they found a stark contrast, a magnificent palace, opulent and grand, surrounded by extravagant buildings and people in expensive silk outfits. The scene was jarring compared to the desolation they had just passed through. The palace, with its dazzling gold porcelain vermilion pillars and green jade-carved windows, stood in stark contrast to the surrounding devastation. The people walking around were all wearing expensive silk outfits, and they looked cheerful. Everyone was smiling and talking. It was a total contrast to the scene they saw previously. What was it, a trap, an ambush, or something even more sinister? Only time would reveal the truth.